so glad that you're here tonight. We're going to have a great time. We've got a lot of things in store for you. As you can see, Bernadette is joining me tonight. And we had a really great week this week, didn't we, Bernadette?
We sure did. We had a lot of activities going on this week. Like on Tuesday and on Thursday, we played the Kingdom Conquest game.
Get it? King Kong.
Why do we call it that?
Because we went bananas.
Yeah, we went so bananas indeed, but it was a lot of fun.
We had a great time. One day, red team won, and on the other day, the blue team won. But if you want to know who is in the lead so far, you got to wait to the very end when we reveal points.
Yes.
We also had another activity this week.
Yeah, on Wednesday, we had Where's WOLBDA, where you guys had to go out and find Uncle Ed. Or you had to find the medallion that you saw on social media or on your email. So we're actually going to give some points away.
Yeah, we're going to give points. If you saw that picture on Facebook or if you saw that picture in the email and you know where it is, type it into the chat right now. And we are going to give the first 3 people 500 points for their team. If you know where Uncle Ed was hiding this past week, type it into the chat and we're going to give the first 3 correct answers 500 points for their team. Speaking of teams,
yeah, so let's do a little reminder.
Yeah, I think we need a little review.
So if your last name begins with the letter A to M, you're on the red team. So why don't you go and throw out some red emojis in the chat as well. And if your last name begins with the letter N to Z, you're on the blue team. So you can throw out some blue emojis. Why don't you explain what game we're going to be playing today?
We are going to play a game called the Emoji Movie. A lot of emojis. So what's going to happen is there will be a series of emojis up on the screen, and you have to type into the chat what movie you think emojis are depicting. The first 3 people to answer correctly will get points for their team. And there's going to be a few of them, so there's lots of chances for you to get points for your team. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready to play.
I'm ready to play.
Let's do this.
All right, here's the first one, so type it into the chat. I know you know what this is.
Hope you know what this is.
We're starting out kind of easy. We might build up and get things rolling, but we're going to start off kind of slight. I don't think I ever saw this one.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
The dude, a black insect.
Yeah.
It's Black Widow. I don't even think that's a movie. That's a character.
Not
right?
sure. All I know is I've never seen this one. All right, looks like we got our answers in.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That is correct. Congratulations to those who got it right. And those who didn't get it right, it's okay. You got chances. You got chances. All right, here comes our next one.
Ooh. More emojis on this one. There's a thought bubble. There's her. There's an elephant.
I'm not sure. I hope you guys know what this one is. We got 3 emojis: animal, a body part, and a cloud. All right, tell us what you think this is. First 3 people to answer correctly get points for their team.
Oh, we have our first winner, or first person.
Good job. Courtney, here's a Who. That's a Dr. Seuss movie, in case you didn't know.
The movie.
Based on one of the books. Many books he wrote. All right, let's see. What is our next one?
Ooh. It just be more harder.
There's an old man, a little boy, balloon, house, some other emojis. Hopefully you can put 2 and 2 together and figure out what this one is.
Oh.
There's a duck too.
I think it's...
Hopefully you know what these emojis are and what movie emojis go with.
Ooh.
We've got our answers in. All right, good
All
job,
right.
guys. The answer is
Up.
up. That was a good one. There's a lot of emojis, letters, but very good, very good. You guys are doing great. Let's see what our next one is.
Ooh, it's longer.
Even more emojis this time. Ooh, this one's got chocolate in it. And a candy. And grapes. And a television.
An old one. Top hat, candy, a sailboat.
Lots of emojis in this one. Hopefully you can figure out what it is. And put it in the chat. First 3 people get it right.
Yep.
So if you don't get it right, sorry, but you don't get it. So even if a lot of people have already answered, you can keep answering. Oh,
got our first one.
We got them in. We got them in.
All right.
Congratulations. You are getting points for your team. It is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yep.
There's 2 versions of that movie. I like the first one. Definitely.
Me too.
Classic. Classic.
All right. What is the next one? Oh my word.
Wow.
Mushroom?
I think so. A wave. Cat. Crown.
Mouse.
Lots and lots of emojis in. I think the more we play, the longer the emoji lines get, it seems.
Like emphasizes.
Gets harder and harder. But the more emojis.
A crown and a heart.
All right, we got them in. We've got them in.
Sweet.
Congratulations. You guys are winners. Well, at least the first 3 of you are. Yes, Alice in Wonderland. All right. So, just a little recap. We're playing the emoji movie game. So, when you see a series of emojis up on your screen, type into the chat box. Let us know what movie you think it is. If your last name begins with the letters A through M, you're on the red team. If your last name begins with the letters N through Z, you're on the blue team. Let's do a few more of those right now.
All right, who is gonna get points? A tree.
Man.
Okay.
2 men. 2 men and a tree.
We have a tree right here.
I don't think.
Well, now you know.
But we do have a lovely castle. We'd like to give a shout out to Aunt Pam and Kirsten. This beautiful backdrop that they've created for us.
They worked so hard on this, and
they surely did. And this isn't the end of it. Just wait. Come out every week and you get to see more.
Yeah. All right.
Got our answers in.
What was it?
Let's see what it is.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. Run, Forrest, run. Get it? Life is like a box of chocolate. Never know what you're going to get. Same with the emoji game. You never know what you're going to get.
Like this one. What is this?
A moon. A London guard.
Yeah.
The Colosseum.
Yeah.
And a flashlight. Actually, that's not the Colosseum.
I mean,
it's got columns though.
It does have columns.
And is there really a man on the moon?
Oh.
I always say that.
Looks like cheese.
It looks like cheese.
Ooh, what is it?
That was quick. Answer is Night in the Museum.
I actually really like this movie.
That was a good one. I enjoyed that one. I did see that.
Really.
All right, let's look at the next one. Ew, creepy crawlies.
Ants. We got a lot of those here.
Yes, it is ant season in Bermuda, so be prepared. Get out your Baygon and those things. Bop, bop, bop. That was just extra. All right, there's some leaves on there as well. Got leaves.
Ooh, someone left an answer, and it was the correct answer.
And the answer is Bug's Life. Bug's
Throwback.
Life. Very much.
I've only seen that once. Sorry. Ooh.
Spaceship, dinosaur, top hat, and a doctor's coat. I think it's a doctor's coat. Or a scientist. Bad scientist.
Very fancy coat.
Basically. All the smart people wear coats like that. No. I saw that dinosaur coming after me. It looks fair. Even though he's really
Dinosaurs are so cool.
How do you know?
Cool.
What?
Yeah, Jurassic Park. All right, we got our first
got
one.
our answers in.
What is it? Meet the Robinsons. I'm a throwback too, actually.
I don't know that, but it's okay. It's okay.
Not a good soundtrack too.
I was wondering what spaceships and movies on her, but maybe I should watch it.
Yeah, I should watch it.
Ooh, honey, bear. Lots of animals in this one. Lots of animals. Aminals. Aminals. I wonder if the animals in this movie talk. It's kind of interesting because they don't talk in real.
Ooh,
that was very fast. You guys know this
answer.
one, and it is Winnie the. I like Winnie the Pooh. I used to watch this. Good one. Definitely. Just a little recap. We're playing the emoji movie game. We're going to show you a series of emojis. You type into the chat box what you think that movie is. Score points for your team. Your last name begins with the letters M. You're on the red team. Your last name begins with the letters N through C. You are on the blue team. I think we've got a few more coming up. A few more chances to win points for your team. Let's see what they are.
Let's go.
Ooh. An engagement. Kitty.
Engaged?
I don't know.
There's an elf.
It just happens. People get engaged all the time. All right, this is the last round, so that means with this one, including this one, there are 5 more chances for your team. So get those fingers out, start typing, figure out what this movie is, and we've got our answers.
What is it?
Lord of the Rings. That ring looks a little bit different though. They didn't have a. That's okay. Ooh. Alien, fun, people. What's this one? You know the answer. What movie do the emojis represent? Type it into the chat below, and we will let you know. Got it right. Type it into the chat below. We will let you know. If you get it right, you get to go.
Because you did get it right.
Good job, guys. The answer is... Here comes the man in black. This one was...
But they did come out with a new version.
I like the original.
The original was good.
It reminds me of my childhood. Fruit. Lightning bolt and a mouse. This one makes me hungry.
I actually really want strawberries.
Strawberries. Very good. You know what this movie is? Type it into the chat that we can give you some points. First 3 people to answer correctly get points for their team,
All
and
right.
you guys are getting points for your team. Good job. Well done.
What's
The answer is
Ratatouille.
ratatouille. Ratatouille. Good job, guys. I think we've got a few more coming up. 2 more. All right.
Ooh.
Fox, police car, and a bunny rabbit. They are emoji animals. We like to look. All right, guys. If you know what this movie is, type it in. This could be quite a few different movies, but
we got it.
Somebody's got the right answer, and that means we are going to see what the answer is. Zootopia.
That was a really.
Is it because you like the music? I figured that.
That one.
Okay.
Good.
All right. The last one. This is the last one. Last chance to win points for your team. Ooh. A rose, a bear, and a light. Bears are brown. And lightning bolts too. Just kidding.
I don't know what kind of lightning bolt. We got it.
We got our answers in. And that was that was actually one of the song games, but this time it was in. Wow, well done. You guys did a great job playing that game. We're gonna let you know what the point total is at the very end. So remember, stick around, don't go anywhere. But right now, we're gonna hear from someone who is no stranger to our shore. He's been a camp speaker in the past when we've been on Grace Island. He's a Word of Life missionary in Alabama, and his wife is from our very own island right here in Bermuda. Let's welcome Brent Fincham.
Welcome, Word of Life Bermuda. My name is Brent Fincham, and I am super excited to be with you here tonight. Kind of bummed that we can't be in person, but glad that we can connect this way. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to 1 Samuel chapter 17. We're going to look at a very familiar portion of Scripture. If you know anything about the Bible, if you've been around church, or even if you haven't, you probably know this story. This is a story of David and Goliath, and we're going to look at the idea of courage and how to act in courage. We're going to see a portrait of courage here in David's life. But when I say the word courage, what do you think about? I know our theme this year is knights kneeling before the king, and so when I think about the idea of medieval times, I think about these epic battles and these open air battles where they're battling with swords and spears and arrows and scaling the walls of the castle, and those are the types of images that come into my mind, this idea of battling for something greater than yourself. But those are way back in the past. I wonder if I say the word courage, can you think of any contemporary examples, anything that comes to your mind? One of the things that comes to my mind when I think of the word courage is a little African-American girl named Ruby Bridges. Now, some of you may know this story, but She grew up in the civil rights movement, or civil rights time, which in America was a kind of a sad time for our country. It's a time when schools and restaurants were separate for blacks and whites, and they had drinking fountains for black people and drinking fountains for white people. They tried to keep everything separate, but thankfully we passed some really good laws that said no, everyone should have equal access to both. And Ruby actually grew up right in the middle of that time in Louisiana. And in Louisiana, the people didn't really like the fact that we passed these new laws that gave everyone the right to go to school together. And so they made another law. They said, hey, listen, that's okay, that's a law, but we're going to make another law that says you have to pass a special test to come to these schools. And they figured that no African American kids would pass this test. In fact, the test was so hard that their kids probably wouldn't even pass it. But guess what? Ruby passed it. Not only did Ruby pass it, but so did 5 other African American kids. And so finally, these people were super frustrated, so they actually took their kids out of school. And then the last thing that they did was really hateful. They actually lined the streets as these kids went to school, and they would yell and say hateful things to them. There are a video of Ruby walking to school, this little 6-year-old girl with her little briefcase, and she's super cute. She's walking with these 2 U.S. Marshals in front of her, 2 U.S. Marshals behind her, walking through a group of people saying hateful things. And what a portrait of courage this young lady was. This idea of, I'm going to do what's right because it's right, and it doesn't matter what happens around me. And in fact, her mom, when asked, like, how did she do this, she said, hey, some people argue about what's right and wrong, and some people just do what's right. Some people just go ahead and do what's right. People of action. And that's what I want to be. I want to be a man of action, especially with my faith. And so if you're listening today and you're a Christian, you may be asking this question: how can I be bold? How can I, in the midst of a culture or maybe a generation that might be pushing the other direction, how can I live strong in my faith with courage, with my Christianity? And so we're going to look at that today. We're going to actually look at the story of David and Goliath. And you guys probably know the setting, but let me just give it to you. There's a war happening between the Israelites, God's people, and the Philistines. And they're actually in a valley, and they're posted up on separate sides of the valley. The Philistines over here, the Israelites over here. And every day for 40 days, this giant Goliath has come down into the valley, and he actually calls out God's people. And he says, hey, listen, one of you guys come down and battle me. We'll have champion warfare. I'll represent my people. You represent your people. Whoever loses, your country will surrender to us, or I will surrender to you, depending on who wins. And this guy was 9 foot 6 inch tall. Like, this was a giant. He was a trained killer. But he would come down to the valley, and he would not only challenge them, he would insult their God, he would insult their people, and all of these warriors on the Israelite side were scared. The Bible actually says they were greatly afraid. And so David is not one of these warriors. He's actually not in the army at all. His dad, Jesse, sends him into the picture to deliver a package with cheese and some other things, like a care package, to his brothers who are soldiers. And so that's kind of where we pick up the story here. We're going to see 3 pictures of courage here. And what I'm going to ask you to do is actually try to identify with one of these pictures. Now, it's really easy to make yourself the hero of the story. Like, I'm David, man. David, he's the hero. He's the one who showed courage, and that's who I am. I want you to ask an honest question. Right now in your home, where you're at, if I'm going to be honest with myself, who am I right now? By my actions, what do I most identify out of these 3 people? The first one is actually King Saul, and he's a picture of what I call absent courage. You see, King Saul was the king of Israel. He was actually, the Bible says, he stood head and shoulders above anyone else. The average person at that time was probably 5 foot 6 inch tall. He was probably like 6'5", about a foot taller than everyone. He was their guy, their manly man, their guy who probably should have been down in the valley. And the truth is, when Goliath called out God's people, He was the representative from God's people. He was the king. And instead of going down into the valley and facing off, what he did was he looked for someone else. Who's going to go? Who will take this guy on? He was advocating what I believe his own responsibility was. And honestly, if we're honest, that's where some of us are at. We know what God wants us to do. We know God wants us to live our faith out boldly in culture. We know He wants us to share our faith with our friends, to no matter what's happening around us, to live out our faith and to make good decisions. But the truth is, it's hard. It's super hard to live out our faith. And instead of doing what we know to do right, we maybe are looking for other people to step up. I know I should tell my friends about Jesus, but maybe Uncle Mark will tell them, or maybe Uncle Ed will tell them, or maybe my pastor or my youth leader will tell them. And if that's you, honestly, let's just be honest. You probably identify more with King Saul right now, and that's an honest place to be. The second picture that we see is actually a picture of what I call fake courage. It's actually a picture of Goliath. You say, what do you mean fake? He's this huge trained killer. He's got to have courage, right? We don't see any evidence in the scripture that he was scared. Now, I'm not saying he was scared, but here's what I want to tell you. He was an arrogant person. He was confident, but he was confident in this. He was confident in his muscles. He wasn't confident in the Lord. He didn't get courage from here. Definitely didn't get it from here. He thought he was all that. See, he was 9 foot 6 inch tall, and he actually wore his suit of armor was 125 pounds. That's like having a 14-year-old strapped to you at all times. The end of his spear just the end of it weighed 15 pounds. He was a trained killer, and he believed that he could take on anybody. And the truth is, up to this point, he had. And maybe you're like him. You're this picture of fake courage. You know what you have to do in life, but you think, man, you know what? I'm gonna white knuckle this thing, and I'm just gonna try harder. I don't need God. I don't need anyone else's help. I can do it myself. And the truth is, you can only do so much yourself. I know your mom might have told you that whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve. But the truth is, no, we need God. We desperately need God to accomplish what God has before us. See, we cannot go into this battle, cannot go into Christian life operating like Goliath, where we just say, I'm going to rely on my own strength, my own abilities. See, we have to be more like David, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. But maybe you're like Goliath. You're a picture of the fake courage. And honestly, you've been trying to rely on your own abilities to live out your Christian life. And you've probably come to the end of yourself, or you will. And you'll realize, man, I can't do this. There's no possible way. Well, then we see David. And you may say, well, all right, finally, the hero of the story, David, we're finally getting to the guy who's the most important person in this story. And if that's what you think, then actually you're probably wrong as well. Because we don't believe that David is the hero. In fact, I believe if David was here speaking on this video to you, he would not say that he was the hero of the story. See, David never got it twisted. He always understood that God was the hero. See, the only confidence that David had was the confidence that the Lord was with him. See, when David walked down into the valley to face Goliath, he did so knowing that the giant in the valley was standing in the shadow of the Almighty. See, he understood how large his God was, how powerful his God was. And so he could walk down into this valley, not because he thought he had big muscles or had the ability in and of himself. He knew who he was walking with. You see, David is an example of dependent courage. You see, we had an example of absent courage. We had an example of fake courage. And then we had an example of dependent courage. And honestly, if we want to live out our faith in our culture and be bold in our faith, we have to have dependent courage. Because the Bible says that God will never leave us or forsake us. He will go with us. And so let's go ahead and quickly look at what this looked like for David. David walks up into this story, and we actually see here in verse 24, Goliath had come down. He had said what he had said before, and all the men of Israel, in verse 24, saw the man and fled from him because they were really afraid. They were greatly afraid, much afraid. And they said to each other, "Have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel, and the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel." Then David asks the same question, and that's what they answer again. You see, David comes into this picture to deliver a care package, and then he sees the cause. He actually sees that there's a need. Now, David had a choice to make at that point in time. He could turn around and go back home and say, "All right, Dad, I did what you asked me to do." You see, but true courage acts no matter who's watching. See, David could have left and nobody would have known, but David saw that there was a need and there was something that needed to be done, and he stepped up to the plate. So true courage acts no matter who's watching. No matter who's watching. It does the right thing no matter who's watching. And the truth is, guys, a lot of decisions that we make in our Christian walk are done in secret. And the truth is, true Christian courage will do the right thing no matter who's watching. Not only does it do the right thing no matter who's watching, it does the right thing no matter who objects. You see, right in verse 28, we see that Eliab says, it says Eliab, his oldest brother, when he heard that David had spoke to the men, Eliab was angry, and he had his anger kindled against David, and he said, "Why have you come down, and with whom have you left the sheep in the wilderness? I know the presumption and the evil of your heart. You have come down to see the battle." And David said, "What have I done now? Was it not but a word?" And he turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before. See, David's brother says to him, "Hey, listen, I hear you talking. Why don't you go back to the sheep?" And David says, "Hey, listen, man, I was just talking, man." But then he actually turns away and he continues his conversation. You see, if you live out your faith in culture, students, I want you to hear this. You will face people who will object. And I know you probably think, yeah, of course, if I live out my faith, people who don't believe in God, they're going to object. The atheists, they're going to object. What you'll find is that not only will they object, guys, but there'll also be some objection and some resistance from people who claim to be Christians. Because when you truly live out your faith with courage, and you actually go all in your faith, there will be other people who aren't all in, but know that they should be. And your presence in your life will be a convicting force. What I mean by that is this, Eliab should have been on the front lines. He should have stepped down to the valley. There'd been 40 days of this guy coming down, and his brother comes in and starts asking questions. And I think what Eliab was, he felt guilty. He knew that he had been disobedient, and now his brother was about to do the right thing. And instead of saying, "You know what, you're right, let's do this," he actually tried to put him down. And that's what happens to many Christians. Instead of encouraging one another, there are people out there in your faith, guys, who will look at you and who will be like, "Hey, listen, I know I should be living that way." So they don't say, "Okay, I need to start living that way." They start putting you down or start getting you to second guess. And the truth is that true courage acts right no matter who's watching, but it also acts right no matter who objects. You see, the only voice that really matters, students, is God's voice. And that's the only voice that mattered to David here in this passage. And then not only that, but and we won't necessarily look at this deeply here, but true courage speaks up when others are silent. See, David actually goes to Saul here in this passage, and he says, "I'm ready." And Saul looks at him and says, "No, you're not. You are a kid." And David says, "Well, let me give you my resume." And he goes in and he says, "Hey, listen, when I was guarding the sheep, there was a lion that came, and I basically choked it out. I killed it. And then there was a bear that came, and it says I grabbed it by its fur and I killed it," which is a crazy thing just to think about. But then David says, "And the same God who gave me victory over these animals will give me victory over this giant." See, again, David understood where his confidence came from. His confidence wasn't in his ability or in his strength or in his weapons. It was in his Lord. And if we want to live out our faith in our culture today, guys, we have to have confidence in God. David walks down into the valley. He has his 5 stones in his slingshot. You guys know the story probably. He walks down. Goliath looks and laughs and kind of says, "Hey, why are you sending this kid? What am I, a dog, that you come at me with sticks?" And David looks at him and actually says, "Hey, listen, you come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty." See, David says, "I see your weapons, I see your stature, but you don't see my God, and I will deliver you to him." And he does. He actually chops off his head, and again, we know the story. He hits him with a rock, he falls, he chops off his head, and we're very tempted to look at David and say how awesome he is, but David, I believe, if he was speaking to us today, would say, "Listen, let me tell you where the real power was. I had nothing. God was my everything." If we want to truly act in courage, we need to know that God is all and that we need him. And so part of that, students, for us, and we don't have very much time left here, part of that is walking with him. The way that we walk with him is we spend time in his word. We communicate with him through prayer. We want to walk dependent on him, dependent on truth, dependent on power. And we do that by spending time with him. Let me give you one example, and then I'll be done. There on the island is the diving platform. I know some of you guys are familiar with that. My daughter Trinity, when she was 4 years old, we were coming across the water, headed to the island, and she said, "Daddy, I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump off the platform." I said, "No, I don't think you will, baby, but we'll see." And we got up there, she had her little life vest on, and I jumped off the platform, and I was down in the water, and she tiptoed up to the end. She looked down, and she looked at me, and she looked down again, and she looked at me, and she said, "I'm not jumping, Daddy." And I climbed up the rocks, and I said, well, what if Daddy jumps with you? And she said, "Well, Daddy, I'll jump if you jump with me." And she put her little hand in mine, and we said 1, 2, 3, and we jumped. And what was different about that? You see, she was unwilling to jump on her own. She was scared. She was very fearful. But her heart was put at rest when her hand was in mine. Why? Because she was confident that I was for her, that I would protect her, because I'd always demonstrated that I would, that I would never tell her something that wasn't true, and that not only that, I was going with her. In the very same way, students, we truly want to have courage in some very hard times to live out our faith. We should put our hand in God's, trust him, and to be dependent on him to see the victory. Thank you for joining me tonight. I will see you later next week, I believe. Thank you.
So much, Brent, for that awesome message. It really encouraged us. Why don't you share with us in the chat how this message encouraged you? So, Anna, why don't you tell us what's going to be happening in the upcoming week?
This week is going to be kind of similar to last week. Starting out with Monday, you will get our weekly announcement that's going to come in the form of a video. So check on Instagram, check on Facebook, check on YouTube, and also check your email because it's going to come in there too. And if you haven't liked our Instagram and Facebook pages or subscribed to our YouTube channel, now would be a great time to do that.
Yeah, so we'll be announcing our Tuesday and Thursday activity. Next week, we're not going to be going to a specific location, but the activity can actually be done wherever you are. So if you're at home, if you're at your job, or just roaming around Bermuda, you can do it there because you only need your phone and your face.
So I think a lot more people will be able to participate this week because some people, if you don't have transportation to get to the activities, that doesn't matter this week because you can participate wherever you are. For our Wednesday Where's Waldo, Again, Uncle Ed is going to be hiding somewhere around the island in a different location this week wearing this medallion. If you find Uncle Ed between the times of 12 p.m. and 1 p.m., you'll get 2,000 points for your team. If you find the location at any other time during the day up until 5 p.m. and you see this medallion, put it around your neck and take a picture in that location and send it in to us, and you will get 1,000 points for your team. This week, we're gonna add in an additional way to win points. If you don't have any way to get to the location that Uncle Ed is hiding, you can reply to the email, send us a private message on Instagram or Facebook, or answer in our Instagram stories where you think Uncle Ed is hiding. If you do that, you will get 500 points for your team. Anything else happening this week?
Yes. So we are going to have another rally at 7 p.m. However, on Friday, next Friday, we're not going to be meeting on YouTube. We're going to be meeting on Zoom. So look out for an email and an Instagram or a Facebook post with the Zoom link. And we want you guys to do us a favor. Take the link that we send you and send it out to all of your friends, or your family members, like your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, anything like that. Because we really want to have as many people in this Zoom as much as possible. So
we're going to have a great time next week, Friday. We've got lots of games in store. And our speaker, Brent Fincham, is going to be back. And he's actually going to be in the Zoom meeting with us. So we'll get to see him again. Now, the moment we've been waiting for. Who is in the lead?
Let's see.
Who do you guys think is in the lead? Put in your team color emojis and tell us who you think is in the lead right now. And here we go. So last week, Friday night, we had the blue team with 54,000 points. Congratulations. And the red team had 42,000 points. Wow. The blue team was in the lead. Now, let's see. After our Tuesday activity.
It's a tie.
Wow. Did not see that coming.
You guys have been fighting hard.
All right, so red team won, but it led to a tie in total points. And after Thursday's activities, it was pretty close. It was pretty close. And now, the final score, the blue team is in the lead.
That is crazy.
I think it says over 200,000 points, and the red team have 157,000 points. Don't worry, red team. You still have lots of opportunities to win points. Blue team, show some love to your team. Throw all the blue emojis up in, and we want to see all those blue emojis, as many as you can fit into the chat right now. But right now, Bernie and I, we're going to say goodbye, but stay, because you're going to want to watch this video that shows a recap of what happened this week. Bye. All right, we're back. We're just having a few technical difficulties. Don't worry, we have a video. We got some great footage of you guys playing the Kingdom Conquest.
Yes.
So if you want to see your friends running around looking for bananas, going bananas, having a lot of fun, if you couldn't be there, maybe you want to see what your friends looked like as they were running around looking for bananas. We had a great time. And we want you to join in and see how great of a time we had, so that maybe next time you'll be able to come. Yeah. And like we said, this week, we're not having an activity in a specific location, but we still want you to participate, and we're still going to put together a video from what you did, what you're going to do this week. All right?
Yeah.
All right. And don't forget to look out for our Monday video. We're also going to post this weekly review video on our YouTube channel as a separate video, on our Instagram, on our Facebook. So you'll get to watch it. You can share it with your friends, tell lots of people, and you can still register for camp. So if you have a friend who hasn't registered for camp yet and they've been asking you about camp, you can send them the link and they can still register for camp. You can register for camp all the way up until the last week. We don't care if people join right at the last week. We want as many people to come in, and we want to have a great time.
Yes.
And we've got a lot more activities planned for this summer.
Yes.
And so we want you to be a part of those activities. There's a lot of things in store, and we're just going to have a great time.
Yes. COVID is not going to stop us from having a good time, and it's not going to stop us from learning more about who God is and just who the Lord is.
All right, so here we go. Get ready. Oh, we're just gonna say goodbye. Sorry, guys. It doesn't look like the video is gonna work in our live stream right now, but look out for the video on our Instagram, on our Facebook, YouTube. We'll email it to you as well, all right? Because we want you to see yourselves having lots of fun. So for now, Bernie and I are gonna say goodbye.
See ya.
And we'll see you later.